welcome into the 90 plus 2 podcast. I'm Sammy St.Jean. That's Jeremy Serafino. We have a guest below, and this is the crossroads between pundits and fans. We are aspiring soccer journalists who have a love for the game, and this is our starting point. This is now episode 7, so getting close to double digits, creeping our way up there. But as you have noticed, there is a random man with a Man Q kit below us. That is my good friend Owen Serafino. The reason I got into soccer in the first place. Owen, give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and what brings you to the pod, and what are we talking about today?
Yep. So I'm Samuel's good friend Owen. I grown up with the kid. Both come from same hometown. I, unlike Sam, have played the game my entire life. Ever since I was little, I come from a soccer family. Uh, my dad and all his brothers played at a very high level. My brother played Division 1 for a while. I played Division 3. So it's just been in my blood. So I've been a fan of the sport for a long time, ever since my dad, specifically a Manchester United fan, since my dad came home from a business trip. Behind his back, he had two scarves. He had a Chelsea scarf in one hand and a United scarf in another hand. And he asked me, pick a hand. And I picked the right one, United scarf. And then I've been a United fan ever since. So uh, excited to add to the conversation with you guys today.
Let's get it going. Jeremy, you have something to explain to us. You have no squirrel on your lip. Let's hear why.
Yeah. I mean, we bring on Owen, who would, well, first of all, he'd put my mustache to shame, but I try to grow out to look like Ted Lasso. But as many of you know, like a soccer fan, I'm a huge hockey fan. I live, breathe, eat, sleep New York Rangers hockey. And yeah, they're out. And, I wanted to go with the playoff stash. Now that, Sammy and I are on camera for school purposes, really can't keep a really long beard. So I was like, you know what, we'll keep the stash for as long as the Rangers are in the playoffs. And it lasted 7 games in the first round. So I'm clean shaven. I look again. But yeah, let's ready to talk some footy.
And we're going to start. Actually, first off, we're not going to start there. Just got to say congratulations to Napoli. They clinched the title, so throw a little congratulations there. We're going to get to Serie A in a moment, but they clinched it today, so congratulations to them. Their first title in a very long time. But we're going to be starting with the Prem, as we usually do, changing the organization of the show just a tiny bit, starting with results, and then the games coming up for that same league. So it's a little disjointed. We can stay with a single conversation for maybe a little bit longer instead of getting distracted, as Jeremy and I tend to do. And I assume Owen will do along with us. But we're going to start with the results that happened in the past week-ish. We did our last episode on Saturday, so it's kind of the Sunday results and on. Starting with United, they picked up a win against Aston Villa and ended what had been a very scary form that Aston Villa has been on. Man City grabbed a 2-1 win over Fulham to keep ahead in the table, keep their advantage. Newcastle 3-1 over Southampton. They're on a tear. Liverpool, Spurs 4-3 in favor of Liverpool after being up 3-0 after just 15 minutes, because Tottenham love to start out games extremely well. Leicester and Everton draw, both still sweating out a relegation battle. And then Arsenal 3-1 over Chelsea. Chelsea, not really, but sort of considering relegation battle now. They're not that far away. Much closer to relegation than they are to any European competition. And then Man City 3-0 over West Ham. To the biggest club in London. Liverpool over Fulham 1-0. And then most recently, what Jeremy and Owen are most likely to be fired up about, Man United falls to Brighton 1-0. But Brighton, I will say, deserve the win, not necessarily the penalty. I'm going to start with Owen here since we don't normally have him. What is your reaction to all the games? But I expect the first comment to be about Manchester United today.
So I have a lot of love for Anthony Martial in his career. I think he's had many bright spots. I think he has to go. He was shocking. I mean, granted, he was unlucky that a couple of his passes didn't get picked up, and I think he does add a certain amount of fluidity when he's on the ball. But in transition, he was just today, man. Shocking. I mean, there are a couple times where Anthony tries to link up with him on the right, and he just doesn't have that touch, that instinct to kind of carry the attack in transition. With that being said, he did have one really good chance, and it was a good save. Thought he could have done better with it. But I think that just continues to highlight the point that United need a forward. They need a true striker or go with Rashford at the 9 and stick with it. I think it only hurts Rashford to continue to have him start in the middle, go out wide, start out wide, go in the middle. And I think that game really was crying out for a Garnacho cameo. It stinks having him out because he adds another dynamic. But I think when the only depth you have to bring to the center striker role late in the game is Weghorst, I think that's a pretty telling statement. So I think that game was really calling out for a new shiny striker for United because they had the chances. You know, the chances were there, especially in the first half. Not a great second half, but Anthony, first 5 minutes of the game, could have put one away. But I think it's going to come back to bite them is finishing their chances. So that's
I feel like Bruno Fernandes hit a couple field goals today too. He sent a couple balls well over the bar today. But I had to say that. Jeremy, let's get your response.
Oh, and I remember when United purchased Anthony Martial from Monaco for 48 million pounds. And I remember United fans being like, what? Like, who's this kid? Like, fans didn't really know much about him. You know, Monaco were people really knew Monaco just from Radamel Falcao, United legend again. But when he came on the scene, it kind of reminded me of like how Rashford made his like first team debut, and he was buzzing all across the field. We've given him every single chance as a club to just perform day in, day out, and it's just not there. At this point, I'd take Odion Igalo back, to bag a goal or two. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think his time is coming to an end. Hey, I still have his jersey from his rookie year with the number 9 on it, and yeah, I've had a lot of great memories in that shirt. Wore that shirt when United beat Crystal Palace for the FA Cup, but man, it was just frustrating. And to lose a game on the very last kick of the game is just like a sucker punch to like the face. Not even like knock the wind out of you. This is like a Tyson 1-2. Like, it's just like, damn, especially when you're in this close of a race. Now, they were saying like, oh, United are still comfortable even if they draw. Nothing's comfortable in this league. It'll come down to the last few weeks. But if I talk about this result again, I'm gonna get, we're gonna turn this from a clean podcast to an explicit podcast. But to change subjects, Sammy, you bring up a good point about Chelsea. I don't know if you or Owen, if you have ESPN alerts on for the Premier League, but they came out with an article saying like how Chelsea is close. It's exactly what you said, how they're closer to relegation than they are to any form of European football. That's scary. And honestly, I would laugh if it happened. To rub it in my roommate Vince's face. But it's honestly scary how a team with, an inexperienced owner in the American group that they have there buying everybody. I would laugh out loud if they were to. I don't think they will. They're probably going to end where they are right now, like 12th, 13th, mid-table. But if they were to play in the championship, like if Stamford Bridge was a championship stadium, that's just comedy material for a whole year.
The problem for Chelsea is they have a tough schedule to close out the season. They got Bournemouth, they've got Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, they have to play a lot of the top teams.
But then they have their final 4 games are brutal. But before we get to games that are coming up, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about Chelsea's road ahead. 6.2, 6.3, 6.7, and 5.4. Those are the defense and goalkeeping ratings of Tottenham's back line and goalkeeper against Liverpool. Every other player scored above a 6.5, or except for actually Kulusevski was the only one that was 6.5. Højbjerg was 6.9, and that was the lowest in the midfield. Everyone else was in the green. But again, Tottenham's defense, you play a back 3, you got 3 center backs, and Romero was fine. I mean, he still does Romero things, kind of stupid at times, but he's still a good center back. Pizza Man Eric Dyer in the middle did nothing. Ben Davies did nothing. I just have nothing nice to say. No. Lucas Moura should never play football ever again. Like ever. Like, I don't even want to see him make another U21 cameo. Like, that's a waste of football. Like, he's gotten multiple starts for the U21s, and that's a waste of football. You're taking away valuable time for an academy that just brought in 2 titles in the past like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, doing what the first team can't, obviously winning trophies. Richarlison takes off his shirt again and Tottenham lose, so that's cool. Doing well. I'm trying to make you guys feel a little better about Man United.
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah. Were you celebrating? Were you celebrating when Richie scored?
Oh no, I was mortified. I knew they were going to choke. I knew it. I had
You're being
faith.
honest, completely honest.
I am being completely honest. Because Owen and I, we're all in the same group chat, and if you go back, as soon as that goal was scored, my first text is hold. I don't trust this team. And immediately after Jota scores, the fact that Jota was allowed to play the rest of that game is absolutely criminal. Yes. He literally cleat to the face of Skip. That's just criminal. But to make us all feel better, actually, it doesn't make me feel better, but Arsenal aren't winning the title, so that's good.
No.
But they did beat Chelsea 3-1, and I think that's the last game out of this set that we should, in general, touch on. 3-1 was the result. Odegaard was incredible in that contest. He had a really, really good game. It's been impressive to see the way he's grown this season. Last year, I thought he was solid, but nothing overwhelmingly impressive. You can see the promise, but this season, like he is a shining star for that club, and he makes them so much better. And then I just gotta say, dude, Chelsea were just not. They look like a championship team playing against Arsenal, especially in that first half. Oh my God, it was night and day. Chelsea put up a little fight in that second half, but night and day difference. But Owen, Jeremy, either of you have comments on that game or Chelsea as a whole?
I'd like to touch on maybe an Arsenal thing real quick. Just about their title push, or former title push. As a United fan, I know I'm not supposed to say that I was hoping that this would happen and that City would overtake them, but this is playing into my best case scenario, which is City win the league. Wait. Arsenal finished second, which is no better than Ole's best finishes as United manager. So the Ole Arteta comparisons start to. I mean, I want to start a discourse. Let's talk.
Yeah.
For another time, and then retroactively, Manchester City get their Premier League stripped. So Arsenal technically still get to win the league. They don't win the treble. Or City don't win the treble, and we can still banter Arsenal for Mickey Mouse Premier League. And technically, they didn't really win it. So my optimal end game is still in play here, which that makes me really happy. But to touch on the actual game, I mean, Arsenal are by far the second best team in the league. I think that's fair to say. I think there's a pretty significant gap between them and the rest of the league, and I think that game really showed it. I could only tune into parts of it. I was driving on my way home from work to play in my golf league. But, I mean, they're just quality. I mean, all their goals were legitimate goals. Beautiful run of play. I mean, there's really nothing you can say negatively about how they play the game right now.
I do want to ask before we go to you, and this is going to be a question I want you to answer as well, Jeremy. What do you think and I want us to be non-biased because none of us love Arsenal here. But as unbiased, if you were to help Arsenal catch City and close that gap as the clear number 2 right now to maybe get to that number 1 spot and challenge City next season, who do they need to sign this offseason?
Man.
I know the obvious answers are going to be Declan Rice, possibly. That's one. But who do you think helps actually improve that squad? Because aside from the Saliba injury at center back, they're really, I feel like, very reliant on the actual progression of the players they have in. I don't see, aside from maybe depth as well, I don't know where they improve that starting lineup. And I don't know who they want to take out of that starting lineup because there's a lot of pieces that just work very well together. You can go to Jeremy first. I'll let Owen think on this.
Oh man, now let me think.
No. This is week 7 for you.
Yeah, no, I know. This is I'm trying to think like where they need, like, because I mean, you could argue like, oh, like goalkeeper maybe, but like I don't know, Ramsdale's been pretty okay. He's got a great, front line ahead of him. Um, I don't know. Do they throw in for dude? I like McAllister. I really do. Like, I mean, do they just bolster their midfield again and just have them play with um have a mid three of Party, Odegaard, and McAllister? I don't want to say someone like Leao because I think Leao is going to be locked up for AC Milan for a while. I'm trying to think of like anyone.
Because
Do
your
they
answer
go
right,
after? Do
your,
they?
your your answer is playing into kind of my point, and that's I feel like
Yeah,
Arsenal are kind of hitting their own cap to an extent. Yes,
yeah.
obviously
Like
their
I think,
younger players are going to improve, but I'm struggling to see where, aside from, I think you make a good point. Replacing Gary Xhaka is probably their
Xhaka, yeah,
best.
but like even he's had like an
He's been good
okay,
this season.
like yeah, this has been his best season by far, and he's been with Arsenal for a long time. But like, do they go after a striker? I mean, all right, Gabriel Jesus is putting up numbers. Like getting him away from City to have him start at Arsenal was his saving grace. But like,
Yeah.
do they just load up at striker? Do they go after? Dare I say it? Do they go after Victor Osimhen? God, I have no idea. I don't think so. I don't think so. But it's like, yeah, where do they go? They're gonna sign like one or two guys, maybe for just depth purposes. But what do you
What do
got,
you think,
Owen?
So
Gun?
I think one thing is they recall Balogun from from his loan. I think
Ooh, yes.
I think he has lots of potential American, by the way. Lots of promise. I think he could tear it up. But other than that, I think what they really need to go for is depth. I mean, you see what City do. I think Arteta is trying to mimic what Pep does at City, and that is buy players that are young. Don't promise them the game time, but you get them before they're 70, 80, 90 million. I mean, look at Ake. How much was
Yeah.
I don't have the number in front of me, but I can't figure he was more than 50 million. Um, and look at he played probably 2 years where he played cup games, rotated
He's
inside center back.
41.
Yeah.
41.
So
Wow.
and how does that signing look right now, right?
Yeah.
So I think
Team of
what
the
they need
season.
to do is another season, another preseason with Arteta, another summer of training the current guys, and maybe just fill out depth in the wing. I think another, besides Balogun, I think another striker would be big because I still think Gabriel Jesus's best position is out wide. I think he's good in the middle, but I think he isn't really that clinical center forward threat that a lot. He's not. I mean, he's not a Holland. He's not an Isaac. He's not an Osimhen. I think they could go for a forward like that, and I think it would improve the team. But I think
What
what
about
they need to do
Vlahovic
is
for them?
yeah,
Ooh.
Vlahovic is great shout. I think what they really need to do is continue to drill their tactics because look at that Pep team. I mean, they don't need to add anything every year. I mean, they haven't some years. They just need to add smart, cost-effective purchases that they can slowly bring into the first team when they're really ready to make their name.
Well, just so I feel like we could talk Prem all the time. Let's move to games
Yeah.
that are coming up, and then we'll get on to these other leagues. So these are the games this coming game week to pay attention to: Newcastle versus Arsenal, City Leeds, Spurs Crystal Palace, Liverpool Brentford, West Ham United, and a potential relegation battle between Chelsea and Bournemouth. So, what games stand out to you? I do want to say Chelsea and Bournemouth currently tied on 39 points for 12th and 13th. They are both only 9 points above the drop. So I feel like these final weeks, as interesting as the chase for top four is, even though United still 4 points above with a game in hand over Liverpool, who's in fifth, Tottenham have shot themselves in the foot a couple times. And Brighton are kind of square in the middle of those two, and Villa's in eighth, still kind of contending. This relegation battle is going to be fascinating down the stretch. So I feel like as much as I want to say maybe that Newcastle Arsenal game is the most exciting, which it is, Chelsea Bournemouth is going to be fascinating just to maybe see whether one of these two teams has to worry about relegation. Because I feel like the loser of this game the alarms start to go off that you might be actually still back in this relegation battle.
Yeah, no, I think, dude, I've been a Bournemouth like I don't want to say I'm not a Bournemouth fan, but just because I got that kid, I'm like I always keep a close eye on Bournemouth and see how they're doing. They might be a lock for me to win over Chelsea. I actually really like Bournemouth in this one, but how can you not have your eyes on Spurs Crystal Palace? I mean, come on, man.
It's
Dude, the
like going
pizza
to
man
watch
just
Tottenham play.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, Newcastle Arsenal is going to be an absolute banger. Um, I love Alex Isak. He is so much fun to watch. The way that he just controls the ball, he's so strong. He's from Sweden. Am I correct?
Yes.
He's Swedish too. So like they're a country that's I don't think they made the last World Cup. So we get to see him play on a Euro level. Following in the footsteps of one of the greatest strikers of our generation in Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So just keep an eye on him. He is going to be just growing his entire career. I liked I like Liverpool Brentford just because like I just think that's going to be like a classic Premier League like goal fest. Like I think like Liverpool might come out of this one like 3-2, kind of like the Liverpool Tottenham game of last week. See if Jurgen pulls another hammy or not with a celebration. But West Ham Man U is a decent game. Um, how they respond after this cluster, you know what, is an eye opener.
Hear it, Owen.
Can you just look something up for me really quick? Do the Celtics play previous to that West Ham United match? I need to know for my own.
The Boston
They
Celtics.
Yes.
they play on Sunday at 7. So that would
And
be I'm trying to figure this out now. Get me curious. They play previous to which game?
to United West Ham.
United West Ham. Yeah, they played like 5 hours before.
So if I was a betting man, I would wait to see the result of that NBA playoff game.
Oh,
And
because they
if
can't
that
be on
No,
the same
no,
night.
no. The Celtics would play after, so you can
oh
do that. They play right
oh
after, directly after.
oh United are gonna win, the Celtics are gonna lose. That's just how it goes. All right,
Damn.
I know, man.
It actually doesn't work because Jeremy's also a Celtics fan, so we have
Yeah.
3 Celtics fans here, so that's tough.
Oh no way.
So
Yeah.
I kind of need United to lose just so that all 3 of us could be happy. But
Hey man, that's definitely in the books. That could definitely happen.
Hey, I'll go
But
for a double win. Come on.
man, it's a tough life.
It'll happen, Owen. You gotta like Ted Lasso says, just
Believe.
believe and believe, man.
I'm trying. But I truly think that United game, as dramatic as it sounds, is going to be season defining. I think our lead on Liverpool isn't necessarily that secure anymore. I think a point or 3 today would have made me feel a lot more confident. But I mean, West Ham's a scrappy team. I mean, they can come out and they can kick you in the mouth, punch you in the mouth really quick. We played them a couple times already. I think we played them in either the FA Cup or the Carabao. One of those two
Yeah.
competitions.
FA, I believe.
Yeah, shortly after the World Cup ended. I think it was in that first 2
Mhm.
months right after the
Yeah,
World
it's when everyone got like championship clubs and then United drew West Ham.
Yes. And that was a good game.
Mhm.
I think if I remember, I think they even scored first. Um, and they have guys they can hurt you, so that's going to be an exciting game. Other than that, I really do think that Arsenal Newcastle is going to be one of my most probably gonna be my favorite game to watch this weekend because those are 2 teams that can really go at it. And Arsenal, I mean, we like to make jokes about them, but their season's not over yet. I mean, City could slip up. It's not a given. I mean, it doesn't look like they will, but can't stop trying. So that's gonna be a big game. And I think Newcastle, they're gonna finish top 4. I think that's pretty close to guaranteed at this point. But I think it would be a big statement for them to finish third specifically. So I think they'll be going all to the wall, throwing everything at Arsenal. So I think that's going to be a very exciting game to watch.
so since Newcastle lost to City 2-0 on March 4th, this is their run of games. 2-1 over Wolves, 2-1 over Nottingham Forest, 2-0 over United, 5-1 over West Ham, 2-1 over Brentford. Then they lost to Villa, but 6-1 over Tottenham was a proper response. 4-1 over Everton and 3-1 over Southampton. So their only loss has been to teams that are in form. So you're finding an Arsenal team that's kind of coming out of form a little bit compared to where they were at the very least. Being at the top of the table is hard form to maintain. Last point on the Prem is on Chelsea. I wanted to bring up the games that they had coming up. So they have Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, City, United, Chelsea, have Newcastle to finish the season. So a run of City, United, and Newcastle in their final 3 games. So if they don't get points against Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest, this relegation battle semi-joke could become very, very, very serious for them. But let's go over to Italy now. And I feel like the only thing that really is to talk about is congratulations to Napoli. That's got to come first and foremost. They clinched the title. They're on 80 points now with their draw. They actually didn't score first against Udinese, but they ended up getting an equalizer from Victor Osimhen. So congratulations there. The results from the past week were pretty interesting, and they really favor Inter Milan and ahead of their matchup with AC Milan. So instead of really talking about the results that happened, I'm going to list them off, but I more want to hear from you how what we're seeing right now is playing into AC Milan and Inter that we see next week. So you're seeing Inter 3-1 over Lazio, and that Lazio is in second place. A bit of a surprise that they are where they are necessarily in the Serie A, but they're in second place, and Inter Milan outplayed them end-to-end in that matchup. And then you're seeing Milan, they drew, and against a Cremonese team that had a red as well. And then Inter pick up a 6-0 win against Verona. So Inter's in form. AC Milan, not so much. Games coming up, you have Milan versus Lazio and Inter versus Roma. So these are some very interesting ties this weekend, and that sets up their matchup over during the week in the Champions League. So I'll go to Jeremy first. What do you expect in this matchup between the two? And do you think their current form is going to play into how they might line up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm favoring Inter right now, but when you look at the lineups for AC, I mean, I like to use this term a lot. They're going to be balls to the wall, and they're going to put all their eggs in one basket. So, Serie A's already clinched. Top 4, is it top 4 for Serie A too?
Yes.
Because I know some leagues it's different, but I believe they get top 4. I think Germany gets 3 or 4. Yeah, it's going to be, best on best, which is what we expect in UEFA Champions League. Look, your boy is going to be a crucial factor for this one in Rafael. But am I wrong of saying that since that whole, remember our episode about the negative jeers that Romelu Lukaku received? Am I wrong in saying that since then that's kind of given him a little bit of hey, up yours kind of deal, and he's been going off?
He has been going off, but it's been more than just him. I mean, they've also seen Lautaro Martinez find his form as well. Dzeko's finding the back of the net, and then they're getting even goals from that midfield. You don't normally see some of these guys score in their midfield. It's typically, I would say, a striker-heavy team in terms of the way they get their goals, but I mean, you're finding the midfielders getting into them.
Awesome.
Barella's scoring, and he's a guy that is very defensive typically. But you're seeing him get up the pitch. So I kind of agree with what you're saying that you should give the nod to Inter a little bit with just their current form. But it's going to be really interesting to see how these midfields line up. And I was going to say, I'm looking at Barella and I'm looking at Tonali. How are these two players going to be able to influence that midfield? Two younger players, but two very impactful standout midfielders in the Serie A. How are they going to match up, and how are they going to be able to influence the game? Because I do think Serie A, or in general, these two teams have more talent than most, but somehow because they're focusing on the Champions League, they're putting themselves, both teams, in a very tough spot for top 4. Inter just sitting 4th, 2 points above being 5th, and AC Milan's on 58 points, just 2 points behind them. So they're both in a weird spot where one of these teams, if not both, depending on what Atalanta and Roma can do, since there's 3 points teams tied on 58, you could see both of these Milan teams not get into the Champions League next season, which would be shocking. But I'll go to you, Owen, here. Your thoughts on the matchup coming up.
I think AC Milan have an X factor here. I think Mike Maignan has been one of the best goalkeepers in the entire world this year. And
Love his name.
personally, as a United fan, that's who I want next year. I know it's not gonna be easy. It's probably like my reach for the stars signing, but man, he is good. That performance he had against Napoli, saving the penalty, um, and just being a wall in general, his distribution is great. I think if he can be on his game, I think Milan are a wall defensively, and I think that showed against Napoli, who is the best team in Serie A. I think AC Milan will have what it takes to beat Inter. I'm personally more of an AC Milan fan. If I had to pick between my roommate in college, name was Vincent Gattuso, he actually is related to Gennaro Gattuso, and if you saw a picture, you'd understand they're identical. It's actually crazy. So I have listened to him scream bloody murder at AC Milan every single weekend. And actually, last year or 2 years ago, we actually almost got in a fight because, as as Jeremy knows, United faced AC Milan in a very big Europa League tie. But I would have to go with AC Milan. I think they have the edge. I think Rafael Leao is probably going to be the best attacker on the field, and I think Mick Magnon is the best goalkeeper on the field and one of the best in the world. So I would have to go with AC Milan on this one.
I will. The only thing I'm going to say is that Andre Onana has been arguably the best Champions League goalkeeper so far this season. I think he has kept them in more games than they should have been at times. But interesting points from you guys. Let's move forward to the Bundesliga. And with the Bundesliga, there wasn't a ton to catch up on because most of the games were on Saturday. The only thing that really happened was Bayern 2-0 over Hertha, which put them top of the table. Then you saw Wolfsburg 3-0 over Mainz. And now, so with this one, since there isn't a ton of results to talk about, next week games aren't overly interesting necessarily. Freiburg versus Leipzig is probably the only single matchup I'm going to be kind of paying attention to as two teams looking to get into the Champions League. Freiburg holding on to one of the spots right now. I want to look at Bayern and Dortmund while we have Owen here. Get a little bit of a prediction on who you see ending up top of the Bundesliga. See Bayern play Werner, Dortmund play Wolfsburg, and then as far as Bayern's concerned, the rest of the way, Schalke, Leipzig home, and then Dortmund has Wolfsburg this weekend, Mönchengladbach, Augsburg, and Mainz. We'll start with you, Jeremy. Who do you think finishes atop the Bundesliga?
It's going to be Bayern, even though I've been a really big Dortmund supporter. I just, to me, Tuchel's just a winner. I've been really riding high on this Dortmund hype train, and it'd be a really nice swan song for Jude Bellingham. But I mean, Mia San Mia. To me, it's just like embedded. The Bundesliga title is embedded in Munich already. So although I would love to see a team other than Bayern win, how can it not be Bayern?
Owen?
Yeah, I mean, my brain is telling me Bayern. My heart's telling me Dortmund. It's usually the case. I mean, Bayern is just so good, and it is. They almost have the City effect where they just feel inevitable at times. Like they'll slip in form, but you expect them to kind of right the ship at the end. And it seems like they have. They have a 1 point lead. I don't see them losing the rest of the year. I think their season was decided by that Dortmund Bayern match a couple weeks ago, and I think that was Dortmund's chance, and they lost it. So I have to say Munich seems like they'd be my favorite to finish the league, win the league this year.
I think those are both fair points. I think overall, though, things can still change because each team has one really tough matchup left. You're looking at Bayern, it's what are they going to do against Leipzig? Can they get all 3 points against Leipzig? Because if one of these teams wins out, the other one is done, essentially by slipping up at all. Because it's a 1 point difference. So should Bayern slip up against Leipzig, it's Dortmund's title to lose. Should Dortmund slip up again, it remains Bayern's to lose. Dortmund has to get through, I would say, this weekend with Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg sitting 7th. They got 46 points in the league this season. So should Dortmund win this weekend against Wolfsburg, they're putting, I would say, the pressure back on Bayern, although it's still in their hands necessarily. Leipzig's definitely the toughest game remaining out of all of these games, especially with Leipzig sitting fifth, still trying to sneak into that Champions League. So there's a lot for Leipzig to play for, and there is still an opportunity, I think, for Dortmund again, although it is in Bayern's court. But let's move over to Liga since there wasn't a ton with the Bundesliga. As usual, there won't be a ton with Ligue 1, but there's some to talk about here with the Liga. And I'm more paying attention to right now with a little bit of relegation battle in terms of La Liga because it's starting to get interesting at the bottom. For them, because you're seeing at least the 20th, the 19th spot seems semi-decided. But 18 and 17, that battle for that final relegation spot is a draw with 34 points between Valencia and Getafe, two teams I didn't necessarily see going down at the start of the season. Both of them on 34 points. And then you see Valladolid and Cadiz both at 35 and Almeria at 36. So there's a lot of teams in contention for that final relegation spot. So it should be interesting. It was really interesting seeing Valencia lose 2-1 to Cadiz. That really gave Cadiz the edge to not be in the drop at that point. The only goal differential being the only thing that's keeping Valencia in 17th versus 18th. Villarreal picked up a 3-1 win. Atletico Madrid is in insane form right now in League, 10 goals in their last two games. So they're 5-2 over Valladolid. That was big for them. Girona 2-0 over Sevilla. Every time Sevilla loses, I just expect any Man United fan to be happy, at least for the rest of this regular season. And then you're seeing Barcelona pick up a 1-0 win against Osasuna. Osasuna, a team that Real Madrid has to play in the Copa del Rey in the final. So Osasuna at least putting up a good fight against the top team in La Liga. And Real Madrid losing in the league, take it with a grain of salt because Real Madrid really doesn't care about the league, although I think they'd still prefer to finish second over at Atletico Madrid. Real, and then Villarreal and Valencia, again, Valencia coming up, drew 1-1. So it was an important 1 point there for Valencia, and then Atletico Madrid, their other 5-goal game was against Cadiz. So is any of those games you want to address at either of you? And then if not, I'll kick it to you guys to talk about Real Madrid versus Osasuna in the Copa del Rey, starting here with Owen.
I personally love the game. I don't follow La Liga as closely as lots do. I mean, I follow Barca and I follow Real Madrid, but I'm not well versed on the rest of the league. Besides the fact that they always knock United out of almost every European competition. Our record against them is terrible, but I don't want to talk about that. But like you said, Real Madrid, not as much of a preview about the game coming up, but a statement about Real Madrid in general. If Real Madrid were a stock, I would be selling on them right now. I am not as confident maybe that they are the team that everybody thinks they are. I think that Manchester City, I mean, this might be getting a little ahead of myself, but they've been disappointed in the league. This week's result showed that. I think they'll win the Copa del Rey. I think when it comes to playing in championship matches, like big matches, they're going to show up, especially in La Liga. Because this is a cup. At the end of the day, they want to win cups. They want to win trophies. But they've disappointed me in the league this year, just from following and watching the results. I don't know why. I think maybe they're on a hangover from last season for the Champions League and the title. But I really don't have too much more to speak on with La Liga right now.
Good, Jeremy.
Yeah. The only thing I was gonna hit on was just like 10 goals in 2 games is just ridiculous for Atletico Madrid. I mean, you usually see, your 1-0s, your 2-1s, but like 5-2 and 5-1 is like, dude, that's the New York Rangers over the show it off. Show it off. Give me a little hotline bling. Come on. Give me a little hotline bling.
Oh,
there he is. But yeah, I mean, we can quickly move on in a little bit. But how can you not like Atletico's form right now? I mean, they're pretty much locked up for Champions League. Those three have always been, pretty much locks. It's always been that 4th spot. That's been interesting for Champions League, but shout out Atletico. I mean, offense galore.
Yeah, no, certainly. And if you're looking, it's 2 goals and 2 assists in 2 games for Griezmann. So Very good form for him in particular, which I obviously love seeing. Jeremy, I didn't get your stuck away without giving an opinion on this. Man City, Real Madrid. I want predictions. Not necessarily who's going through. I'll give you a pass on this one for now. Who's capturing that first leg though?
Do we know where's the leg being played?
I want to hear your opinion first. I'm being a pain.
I'm gonna go City. I'm gonna go City. You want to score?
Yeah, let's get a score from you.
City 2-1.
2-1. It's home for Real Madrid.
City.
Does that
2-1.
change your opinion?
Nope.
Okay.
Even though
Owen,
I've said Real Madrid's the best team, it's really Man City.
So if Real Madrid hadn't played that second leg against Chelsea, where I thought they looked very flat, I would say maybe 1-1, 2-2. I mean, I think there's going to be goals. It's not going to be a 0-0 draw. But that was very unconvincing against Chelsea in that second leg. Chelsea had chances. If Chelsea was a top 4 level team this year, I think they could have had them in that second leg. But Chelsea is Chelsea. I think Manchester City are going to score goals. I think specifically that back line in midfield is going to dominate the game. I think Real Madrid have looked very suspect on that back line. I think Militao has been strong. And at times Carvajal has been good. And Mendy's a good defender. But I think overall City's attack, midfield, defense, stronger in almost every category. And I think Man City is going to stomp them, to be fair.
So I'm actually going to disagree with you guys, and for one reason. And Man City has looked vulnerable a handful of times this season. Even that might be a stretch. When have they looked vulnerable? When they play fast teams. Real Madrid's known for their speed on the wing. They have Vinny, they have Rodrigo, they have that man in the middle that can kind of set them both up in Benzema. And they have a midfield, although maybe not as strong this season as Man City, a midfield that can link up play and get the ball to their star players on the outside for a little counterattacking football. If there's anything a Spurs fan knows, it's counterattacking football. I think Real Madrid at home is going to give Man City not necessarily a scare, but a wake-up call that they're not going to have the same run through of the Prem in the Champions League in this tie. Like, they're going to have to earn it, because at the end of the day, the Champions League is Real Madrid's competition. And until someone can catch up to them in total titles and or just prove otherwise, it is Real Madrid's competition for now. And I think Real Madrid's going to make a statement. I think it's going to be a 3-2 win in leg 1. I don't necessarily know if I see them going through after leg 2 at Manchester City, but I think Real Madrid wins leg 1 by a score of 3-2. So after leaving that and disagreeing with both of you, let's move on to Ligue 1. Don't necessarily care too much about the results necessarily. I mean, Lorient beat PSG 3-1, but PSG is still going to win the title, so it doesn't really change anything necessarily. I want to talk about one thing, actually 2 things. First, Lens and Marseille, a battle for second place because only the top 2 spots are guaranteed for Ligue 1 in the Champions League. The third spot gets a qualifier. And it really does seem it's going to be between Marseille and Lens. And both of them play against each other this coming weekend. So I don't know, Owen, I don't know how much you follow Ligue 1. I know, Jeremy, you're a pretty big Marseille guy in general. At least you love the Valendrome. I want to know, even if it's a semi-uninformed decision, who do you think is going to grab that second spot, Marseille or Lens? We'll go to you, Jeremy, first.
I'm going to go Marseille. I think experience comes when you need it most. And Marseille's been there. PSG's been the top dog for years in Liga ever since their big, financial takeover and the birth of Kylian Mbappe being one of the greatest players in the world. Look, I mean, how can you not love Marseille, the culture there? I just want to make sure that this game is being played in the Velodrome. It's not. It's on the road. So Lens is actually home here. I still think they'll squeak out a result. They're unbeaten in their last 5 games. They have 3 wins and 2 draws, but I'm going OM, Olympique to go to UCL.
Owen?
I'm actually gonna go with Lens. Only because of one thing. I don't know much, but I know Openda. And he is an
Yes. Oh,
animal.
yeah.
And he is an animal. He has that dog in him, man. And I think that if I had to go with one team that has like an X factor as far as finishing out this season, Openda seems unstoppable at this minute. I mean, he's just coming off of a League One Player of the Month. I think he is going to power them to the second place. But Marseille, I mean, they have plenty of firepower too. Payet, Sanchez, both coming off of great seasons. Sanchez in particular, which is interesting because if you asked me 2 years ago if Sanchez was going to have a career rebirth per se, I would say not a million years. He was shocking at United. I think he was underwhelming at Inter Milan, but wow, he is great this year. So it could go either way, but I'm a big fan of Openda, so I'm gonna have to go with Lens.
Yeah. Openda, 18 goals, 3 assists so far in 33 games played in Liga. I mean, yeah, he has that really good card on FIFA that I just saw.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, squad. I think he's got like 99 pace or something like that. But yeah, no, this one could be like a must watch. I mean, it's really hard for a league on. You got to like stream it or
yeah,
but yeah, this will be a fun one. 2 versus 3. We got this and Arsenal Newcastle. Big weekend for footy.
And Spurs Newcastle, or not Spurs Crystal Palace. Oh boy, yeah. So I will say I'm going to give the nod to Marseille, and it's because lately Marseille wins close games. They have had they haven't necessarily been in the greatest form or outplayed some of the teams that they should have outplayed to the degree they have, but they've been a lot of close games and they've won those close games. So I'll give them the nod. Now it's time for a little bit of tea, and there's a lot of tea. The first thing I have to say, a little more Syracuse news. Again, Apoku just finished out his season, so congratulations. He finished with, I think it was Player of the Month for
their club.
He got Player of the Month.
I don't know how to say their name.
Ovi Leuven?
Yeah, Leuven. Yeah.
The other one is Levante Johnson. He's going to get a little call up to the first team, Vancouver Whitecaps. The coach did a little interview today, and he will be up there for the Canadian Championship. I don't know if he'll be there for anything else, but him getting a look up at the top team is really exciting for him. And then there's a lot of other tea to get in. I'm going to mention it all, and then you guys can just tell me what you want.
Yeah, there's a lot here.
There's way more. Whoa. There is way more tea this week than there was last week. So I'm going to go top to bottom. Whatever you want to respond to, you can. Touched on Richarlison embarrassing himself a little bit earlier. United, Newcastle, Spurs all being linked to James Maddison this week. Jose Mourinho with a very funny quote about Pep Guardiola. When you enjoy what you do, you don't lose your hair. Pep is bald. He doesn't enjoy football. I just thought that was hysterical. Mourinho wears a wire during the game because he doesn't trust the referee. Thought that was also hysterical. So a lot of Mourinho in the teeth this week. Spurs were tracking Tonali and Abraham in the past couple weeks. So 2 interesting players that, should Spurs sell Kane, could be achievable. I don't think if they don't sell Kane, I don't see them getting either of them. Yeah. But with the additional funds, those players might become achievable. Abraham necessary should they sell Kane. The San Siro for leg 1 of the Milan Derby in the Champions League is already sold out, and that was earlier in the week that it was. Lionel Messi. This is the other PSG news, and technically Neymar. This is the only thing you guys are mandatory required to respond to. Where should he go and where will he go? And I want an answer for both Messi and Neymar. And I'll give you the time to think while I'm reading out the rest of the tea. So Xabi Alonso and Ruben Amorim, their hats are in the ring for Spurs manager now. Pochettino kind of squared away there for Chelsea.
Xabi Alonso.
Alonso is apparently a front runner behind Nagelsmann now. But Ruben Amorim, his name from Sporting is also in the ring. There's about 5 or 6 names that Spurs have finished their initial interview, or their initial kind of search, and now they're going to go into further interviews. So it seems like they're kind of on that step 2 of their process of just taking absolutely forever to do anything.
Yeah.
Sevilla registered interest in Davinson Sanchez.
Good.
Get on my hands and knees. Take him, please. I don't want to see him in a Spurs kit ever
I feel no
again.
pity for that man, says Sam.
No, he is a Sevilla player. He is a Sevilla player.
He is god awful, is what he is.
He's a butcher.
True. Jude Bellingham to Real Madrid seems all but done at this point. Kind of squaring away things between Bellingham and Real Madrid. It's kind of going to come down to Real Madrid and Dortmund. So Mateo Alemany to Villa, and Barcelona couldn't match financially, so that's pretty interesting there between Villa and Barca. Pep Guardiola have 1,000 goals in 404 games, a wild statistic for them. And Antoine Griezmann and Messi are the only players in the top 5 leagues with 12 goals and 12 assists. So elite company there for Messi to be considered along with Griezmann, of course. But the question that I wanted you both to answer, and this comes down to Messi and Neymar. Where should they go and where will they go? Because both of them seem all but guaranteed to leave PSG this season. I don't think PSG deserves either of them, whether either of them have handled themselves properly with that club. I think PSG as a club doesn't really deserve anything, especially with the way their fans have acted. I don't really care what you think these players have done. You're not churning Messi out of your club. I don't know who you think you are, but you guys have done nothing in Europe, and you do not deserve to do that. That is just not a stance you guys are able to take as a club. So, with that being said, start with you, Jeremy, because you heard the question way earlier than Owen did. Where do you think Messi is going? Where should he go? But where will he go? And the same thing for Neymar.
All right. Messi should go to America. I'm going to tell you this. I think you need – so the MLS has been linked to Ronaldo for years going to Inter Miami. Now, I'm not saying Inter Miami. I'm just saying the MLS. I would love him at Red Bull. It's not going to happen. The Red Bulls do not invest in the club. They're only focused on Leipzig, which is fair. Here's a hot take. I think he goes back to Argentina. I actually love that take. I love it. He's done it all. The man has done it all. So where will he go? Tottenham? No way.
No, I'm saying if he really wants to do it all, get a trophy for Tottenham. If you want to do it all,
Newell's Old Boys. I'm calling it. Go back to where your roots began. Newell's Old Boys. He cannot go to Boca Juniors. He can't go to River Plate. The football, it's like everywhere. Argentina is so loyal, and Buenos Aires had so many clubs in that area where if he were to go to a top club in Argentina, like a Boca Juniors, it would be like hell on earth. So I don't get all the Saudi buzz. I don't. I know Ronaldo's there. I know he's a couple people are on Al Nassr with him. Go home. You've done it all. Why not? Either America or go home. Newell's Old Boys for the win.
Neymar, though. Jeremy, where are we going? Where are we thinking with Neymar?
I don't care about Neymar. He's a little he's not going to go to MLS. I don't think so. You want him at Tottenham? You want to take him?
I mean, might sell seats next season because we won't have Harry Kane.
Because he's been linked to United, but I just
apparently he's going
to
be loaned with an option to buy is apparently on the table. Like people won't have to buy him outright, which would make it much easier for PSG to unload him. So that is an option. So whoever does take him, honestly, personally, I'll jump ahead. I was going to say mine last, but I think he's going to Chelsea.
Just I was going to say that they buy.
I think that's what Chelsea are going to do, and he's already been linked to Chelsea. And I again jokingly, if Messi wants to prove he can do anything, this club is the one. That's the challenge among all challenges, is to put anything in that trophy cabinet aside from something the youth academies are going to do. But I think Messi will go back to Barca. I think Barca will do whatever they can financially to bring him in, but I think it's a stupid choice. I don't think sacrificing any of the youth quality that they have is necessarily worth bringing him in for 1 or 2 years, because I mean, I get it. I get wanting to bring Messi back for maybe a proper conclusion to his career at Barca, but at the same time, they have I understand there's a lot of negative necessarily going around Barca, but they have a lot of talented youth players there, and I don't think they should stunt necessarily any development or anything they got going on there for that. Owen, let's hear from you.
So as far as Messi goes, there's 2 options to me. I agree that MLS is a serious option because he's going to need a lot of money. And Barca, if they can pay him that money, they need to be investigated instantly because they are in shambles financially. So if they can somehow swing it, man, I have lost all faith in the financial structure of La Liga. With that being said, MLS can't offer a lot of money, but what they can do is offer ownership. And I think that would be really interesting to see him come in with some sort of stake in whatever team he goes to and kind of play with the promise that when he's done playing, have a stake in the club that he's already risen the level of just by being there. And I would say Miami was a good one because I think as far as MLS goes, I know I hate to say it, retirement league, but for Messi it would be. For a lot of players, I think that's changing. I think that stigma is changing. That's not necessarily a retirement league, but when you say Messi and MLS, I mean that's kind of what you're going to think of. So I think it would be great for him to go play another season or two at Miami, get some sort of stake in the team, ride off into the sunset. My other thing would be retire now. He just won the World Cup. How much more can you do? He's done everything. Tottenham, Tottenham, yeah, that's a shout, Sam. That is a shout. But I would, as much as I love to watch him play, I think that would be a pretty great ending. You win the World Cup. People are gonna, at the end of the day, they're gonna forget about PSG. In his career there, it's gonna be a little blip on his illustrious career. So I think retirement or the MLS are his two best options for me personally. And for Neymar, I think this is gonna be a big moment for Newcastle
That makes sense.
because of all the teams that have the money and haven't necessarily made the splash. I mean, they brought in Isaac for a big fee, but it was a smart signing. I could see them saying, you know what? We can make a statement here. We can bring in Neymar, like the Neymar, to the Premier League. Thing is, I don't know if Neymar is the kind of player to buy into a Eddie
Right.
Howe
Yeah.
team. Like I don't know about how that works, but Chelsea's a good shout. But I think Newcastle is another one of those teams where they have the money, they have the owners who would do something like that, and this is why I think it's a big moment for them because I think that's the wrong decision. I think it could happen, but I think it's the wrong decision. So this is a big moment for their owners to say, you know what, we just finished top four. Neymar's past his prime. This is nonsense. We're not going to bring him in. But if they are who I think they might be, I think they might bring him in this summer.
All right. So Owen, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor now. Can you turn the audio completely off your laptop? We're going to do Ted Lasso, and I know you haven't watched it yet. So I'm going to leave you in this, but just completely mute the audio.
We're fairly quick.
And I'm going to do this when I want you to turn your volume up. So I don't want to spoil the episode.
I'm trying to figure out how to do that.
Just like literally the volume button on your computer.
Oh yeah,
go all the way down, and
right,
and I'll wave my hands like this when we're good. Okay. All right. If you want to watch that on YouTube, me waving my hands like an idiot could be funny. So Jeremy, Ted Lasso recap. I'll give my thoughts first. You can respond. I didn't like the episode in general. Did not like it. I thought it was a big Ted Lasso L. Actually, I was very disappointed in Ted. Very disappointed in Jack for obvious reasons, and disappointed in Roy. So, Ted, you've come so far. And I understand having everyone around is very hard to handle and very hard to maybe treat properly. And the fear of your ex-wife, who you still love, getting engaged to someone else is something you really want to know an answer to. You're better than that. You've come way further in the show than the actions he did in that last episode. And I'm thoroughly disappointed. Jack, I don't know if I like her more or less than Shandy now. Roy, you were doing so well, and then you had to ask who was that video for. You were doing so well. You were doing so well. Unfortunate. Rebecca and Beard, I thought, kept that episode from being a complete failure. Beard and Henry at the end of the episode was one of my favorite moments, and I think the only moment that really kept that episode afloat. Yeah.
It's the quote this week.
Rebecca was kind of just like that, kind of the shoulder to cry on in that episode, kind of that
Yeah.
emotional support person in that episode. She seems to be doing very well since she had her one night little fling. So good for Rebecca. And then again, Jamie's proving he's improving as a person.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
I don't know what necessarily happened between him and Keely at the end because that's where the episode cut, if I remember correctly, or like that scene cuts and we don't see anything from them again.
Yeah.
So that's weird, but could be something interesting. And then I hate seeing Nate happy. After seeing him not have the cojones to say that defend Ted and Henry coming to the game to Rupert, I'm like all set. You're good. I'm good. Jeremy, let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I think last week I kind of controlled the recap, so I wanted you to kind of, steer the ship for this week. Um, but yeah, the scene at the pub was the one that really hit home for me, and it's a great little scene with Henry and Beard. Um, yeah, the whole Nate and Jade thing kind of was like, okay, it's kind of cute, but we all know how we feel about Nate. Um, yeah, I love the quote so much that it's gonna end today's episode. But you hit the nail on the head. I kind of have the similar feeling to you about the whole episode as a whole. It wasn't my favorite after coming off of an absolute banger last week, and then the week before with the Amsterdam episode. I kind of expected like, okay, maybe we hit a dud, and we kind of did. Um, the whole thing with Colin and Isaac, like, what does Isaac do? I don't think he's going to be the one to rat him out. I think they're going to have a nice little heart to heart next week, but that's for us to find out next week.
I think it's gonna be a little uncomfortable between the two, and I think they might even have beef. I don't. I think it's gonna be something weird. Isaac's not gonna rat him out, but I think there's gonna be a weird like trust thing. Like Colin might be weird to him because he knows, but he doesn't know how to go about it. So there's gonna be something weird there. All right, let me wave aggressively and see if Owen can figure out that we are ready for
Owen, there he is.
Beauty. Hey, here he is. Owen,
Hello.
let's hear about your game in history.
All right. So my game in history. August 11th, 2019, Manchester United, Chelsea. Home opener. I was there. That was my first. I actually got to go to Old Trafford. It was like a pilgrimage for me, you know. Um, my college team was lucky enough to do a European trip where we went to Ireland, then Liverpool, went to Manchester to catch that game.
Nice.
And that was Harry Maguire's debut. So it was an infamous day. Is Aaron Wan-Bissaka's debut, which I'm still, and personally, my favorite, Daniel James' debut, where he scored shortly. Season prior, his father had passed away, so it was really cool to see him score and kind of celebrate in the corner on his home debut at Manchester United and kind of celebrate his father. But that was one of the best days of my entire life, I have to say. It was electric. It was a great game, and that's my game in history for sentimental reasons.
Beauty. Jeremy, you are 6-1-2. I am 6-2-1 in terms of our locks. So if you listen to us in terms of betting, you've been doing very well this season.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Jeremy, let's hear your 3 locks.
All right, so I'm gonna go play the anti-hero role. I'm gonna go Philadelphia Union over the New York Red Bulls because the Red Bulls are in the mud. Number 2, I'm wearing the kit right now. Borussia Mönchengladbach over Bochum in the Bundesliga. And I need a Premier League lock, so I'm kind of thinking right off the cuff here. I'm going to go Liverpool over Brentford. I think Liverpool's going to respond well after their win here. So I got Liverpool over Brentford, Mönchengladbach over Bochum, and Philly over the Red Bulls. Now for my 3 stars of the week, presented by Chase, as Joe Tolleson would say if we were at the Madison Square Garden. My 3rd star, give it up for Lorient FC, defeating Paris Saint-Germain, making Ligue 1 relevant again, huh? Yeah. 2nd, Christopher Nkunku. I love him as a player. Honestly, he's a player that I would love United to have one day. Very rapid player. Had a big result. He was the goal scorer for their 1-0 win over the weekend. And then number 1, how could it not be Erling Haaland? Premier League record. He's going to be one of the greatest goal scorers of this generation. So I'm going with the Norwegian god himself as my number 1 star.
Christian Nkunku, a Chelsea player already, so that's unfortunate. Random footballer, and I think Owen's going to get a kick out of this one. It's Burnley FC star boy Ashley Barnes. He's got 6 goals and 3 assists on the season, and I know, the first time I ever got FIFA, Owen remembers me getting fired up about how good this 78 Ashley Barnes card was and being blatantly wrong, but I know you remember
what's
that.
the joke? Div 10 moment? Is that what they say?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that was exactly what it was. Literally the first striker I used in FIFA, and I thought he was the next coming of Jesus. But he's got 6 goals and 3 assists at the age of 33 years old in the championship, and just saw his team get promoted. So give him a little bit of love. That's his 2nd championship title with Burnley. So he's a loyal member of the club. So shout out to him. Time for our random club guesser. Okay, Jeremy. So I was the first one to lose on this team guesser.
I know. You were down to like 1 of 3 clubs last week.
I know. It was tough. But let's hear it. Let's go. I'm ready. I need to give you your first L. So let's go.
All right. I'm gonna go question. So you keep track.
Yep.
Serie A.
No.
MLS.
No.
Bundesliga.
No.
Prem.
No.
Ligue 1.
Yes.
Okay.
Halfway there.
God, about time. Man, are they? I'm just gonna table. So I have 5 more guesses, 5 more questions,
Yep.
right?
5 left.
Are they in the relegation zone?
No.
Are they in a spot for European football?
No.
Okay. Do they have red in their badge?
No.
Do they have blue in their badge?
No. Last question.
Do they have black in their badge?
Yes.
Is it
Need your
Lorient?
guess. Yes, it is.
Woo-hoo!
Damn. I was going for some type of like deep fake there, thinking you weren't gonna guess the club.
I was really overthinking it. I'm like, is it gonna be Lorient? But Jam's here.
Damn it. I thought I had you.
You had me on the edge of my seat,
Dude,
man.
that was a good one. I feel like that was a pretty good one. Before we go to your final debate topic that you have, Owen, 2 stats that I saw on Twitter. Well, kind of taking a break here. Juventus, since they won 9 straight seasons, there's been 3 different wins in the Serie A. So really good to see in general Serie A having a little bit of kind of parity at the top. And then this one, both United fans might want to cover their ears. United are now 1-9-2 against on the road against teams that are in the top 12 of the Prem. So 2 stats that I wanted to include on the show. And with that, let's go to the debate. Owen, introduce your debate topic.
All right, so I'm pretty tapped into football Twitter, for better or worse. It has its moments, but one of them I see it going around a lot is like your favorite "I am him" moment in footy. So I'll go first as maybe as an example.
Okay.
So mine is Ronaldo hat trick against Atletico in the second leg of Champions League to win on 3-2 goal aggregate after the miss Diego Simeone cross chopping, celebrating to come back and terrorize a team he's terrorized already for a decade, but on Juventus to go and just do that. You're him.
Yeah.
That's an I'm him performance.
So mine is slightly different in terms of how I interpret it. It wasn't like a one game thing necessarily. So this is the breakout of Gareth Bale back in 2010 for Spurs. And it was against Inter Milan in the group stages. And at the age of 21 years old, with Spurs down 4-0 at halftime, he bagged a hat trick in the second half and made it 4-3. And then Spurs, he had 2 goals in the next game against Inter, and they went on to win 3-1 in that contest. So big 2-game swing that really propelled his career from Spurs, and eventually obviously know how great he ended up being. So that was kind of him entry into the scene. I'm that guy. I'm not just some young 21-year-old. I'm legit. So that's how I interpreted it. Jeremy, let's hear yours.
Fellas, we are going way, way back. I'm talking 1958, the World Cup. A 17-year-old by the name of Pele This is the first time that the soccer world, now again, we don't have social media back then. We don't know of him, but this is when he became, okay. This is when if you watch Pele Birth of a Legend, you get to, he didn't really play with shoes on when he was a kid. That's why his team was called the Shoeless Ones. But some of these stats are amazing. He drops a hat trick in the semifinal against France, 2 goals in the final against Sweden, and 1 in the quarterfinals against Wales. So, look, that's him. Rest in peace to a legend. But I wanted to honor one of the greats for this one.
All right, Jeremy, send us home with your Ted Lasso quote.
Owen, you might want to give a little earmuffs because this comes from the last episode, but I'll wave aggressively when I'm done. So this is from the one and only Coach Beard. So I'm switching it up a little bit. Henry, you have a great mom and dad, and they love you tons. Even though it's weird, they live in different countries. And I know right now it feels like you're in a sad song. But you, young man, you have the power to take a sad song and make it better.
All right. Owen can uncover his ears, but that was the 90+2 podcast. I hope you guys all shed a tear there when you heard Jeremy say that. That's the 90+2 podcast. I'm Sammy St.Jean. That's Jeremy Striano. That's Owen Serafino, our second guest ever on the 90+2 podcast. And this is the crossroads between pundits and fans. We are aspiring soccer journalists who have a love for the game, and this is our starting point. That was episode 7. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.